The long 2-month wait for the next JoJolion chapter finally came to an end in April, and what we were given is a chapter which shows the result of the invisible soap bubble heading towards Toru. This chapter also throws in a few unexpected moments, which has made me think a lot about where part 8 is going to go. This chapter review is pretty late as I've had some stuff going on in real life. We're currently looking to move house, so we've been having meetings and house viewings. I'm also once again returning to work on the 17th of May. I have no idea when this video is releasing, so I may already be back at work by the time this comes out. With that being said, let's move on to the chapter review of chapter 106, titled Go Beyond. Firstly, I just want to showcase the cover of Ultra Jump for April. How cool does this cover look? Especially with the JoJo stuff isolated. I really like the Toru and Wonder Review artwork in the background, as well as all the references to some previous arcs and other characters in JoJolion. Plus the cheeky card suits in the background, obviously relating to the Higashikata family. Now onto the cover, we see a nice image of Josuke with Soft and Wet, plus we get the confirmation that the battle over the Rokakaka has finally indeed reached its climax. This says to me that JoJolion may be over this year, however, with it only being a monthly manga, we have the possibility of 8 more chapters this year, including May's chapter 107. I personally feel that this final battle will continue for longer than that though, especially with what happens later on in this chapter. However, I'll discuss that a little bit later on when we get to it. The first page takes us to the section of the TG University Hospital close to where Josuke currently is. It looks like the main reception area of the hospital. 2 nurses hear a clunking sound of something falling onto the ground, and when they look up, they notice a round hole in the wall which ripped right through a vending machine. If you remember from chapter 105, this will have been one of Josuke's invisible soap bubbles that went through the wall. This just shows the sheer power of Josuke's newly discovered ability. The invisible soap bubbles that come up from his Joestar birthmark transgress all known forms of logic, and therefore do not technically exist. These bubbles can pierce through any and all forms of logic with no holds barred. With the hole in the wall and in the vending machine, you would expect some sort of debris on the floor. However, as you can see, the only debris on the floor are the drinks falling out of the machine. This kinda shows that Josuke's invisible soap bubbles have the potential to just completely eat up anything that they touch, leaving no trace of them behind. This reminds me a little bit of Vanilla Ice's stand ability, where anything Cream touched was devoured and possibly sent somewhere else, such as into a pocket dimension. On the other side of the wall, the nurses find Josuke covered in blood, and also the multiple clones of Obladi Oblada. There's an IV next to Josuke, which at first led me to believe that the nurses may try and give him fluids and replenish his blood. However, I don't know if this is a water bag or a blood bag. Either way, the nurses may see this and attempt to try and get this inside him. However, we later see that they do not do this. We flip back to the Higashikata estate, where we see the plane door finally is about to hit Yasuho, while at the same time, the invisible soap bubble heads straight towards Toru. The invisible soap bubble causes a part of Toru's abdomen area to explode, creating a round hole similarly to how the steel ball in part 7 caused the spherical marks on the rocks where Gyro had been training. Except with these invisible soap bubbles, just like the vending machine and the wall, it seems to completely eat up the debris, in other words, Toru's body. The damage to Toru was so strong from the power of the spin that it sends Toru flying high into the air, placing him close to the trajectory of the airplane door. This causes the airplane door to change course slightly to avoid hitting Toru due to the calamity energy, which also causes it to miss Yasuho as well, saving her life. Because of course, the Wonder Review makes sure that Toru does not get damaged in any way, therefore the calamity was slightly altered. The plane door slams through into the living room of the Higashikata estate, causing a shockwave that sends the Higashikata family members flying backwards. Yasuho survived the calamity thanks to the last-second ditch effort from Josuke and his spin ability. The nurses witness the head doctor bleeding profusely from the hit that Toru had just received. The nurses attempt to move towards him to help him, but instead a small calamity hits them as the cart bashes into them. This is because the calamity energy categorized the nurses moving towards him as an attempt to pursue him. Josuke is still covered in Obladi Oblada, but he continues to will himself to move forward, pressing the button of the elevator. Josuke explains to Yasuho that the invisible soap bubble that protrudes out of his left shoulder is uncontrollable, and he can't aim it properly at all. It seems he is only able to activate it due to the new knowledge of the spin that Mamazuku gave to him, yet has not had any time to practice using it. Plus, these bubbles do not exist. So is he even able to train himself to use an ability which doesn't even exist? This ability can be activated at will, but so far, that is all he seems to be able to do. Josuke explains to Yasuho that his invisible spin traveled through the cell phone, transcending the calamity energy. This, so far, is the only ability that we have seen which is capable of bypassing the calamity energy of Toru's stand. At this point, we can probably assume that the spin in general can bypass the calamity energy. However, because Josuke is the only one alive able to use the spin that we know of, he is our only way of stopping the Wonder of You. Josuke explains to Yasuho that the damage to Toru was only possible due to Paisley Park's ability. Without her stand's ability, both Yasuho and Josuke most likely would have perished here. He asks if Toru is still there and whether he is alive or not. After finding out Toru is alive, Josuke makes the bold statement that he's planning to shoot Toru once more with the invisible spin. Toru seems to be barely clinging on to life at this stage. We've seen in the past that Toru has never once been damaged prior to Kei and Josuke's team up a few chapters ago, so this near fatal damage he has suffered here is something that he has never experienced before. If anything, if he survives this, Toru will no doubt realize that he needs to go all out against Yasuho and Josuke, and he will probably get very angry. Josuke explains that Yasuho needs to stop Toru from escaping, and to hold him there as long as she can while he prepares another invisible soap bubble. However, Toru is not done. He continues to bleed out from the wound Josuke created, yet he stands up and walks menacingly towards Yasuho and Joshu. Toru is bleeding from his mouth as well as his wound. It appears as if he's covering his mouth to stop the blood from pouring out everywhere. However, the next panel shows that he has actually eaten one of the new Rokakaka fruit to recover himself. Yasuho is in shock, as she exclaims to Josuke that Toru has eaten one of the new Rokakaka and is heading straight for her. Toru must be intending to heal himself by absorbing parts of Yasuho's body just like she did with Joshu. Josuke expresses that the invisible spin needs to become attached to Paisley Park for it to transcend the logic of the calamities. I'm not sure how exactly he means this. I'm assuming that Josuke probably means he needs Paisley Park's ability for the soap bubble to go through the phone to attack Toru. Although, it's possible that combining the power of the invisible spin and Paisley Park's abilities are what grants Josuke the ability to transcend the calamities. Though all we know is that Mamazuku has told Josuke his spinning bubbles alone have that ability, so I believe Josuke's statement here is purely based on this current situation. Toru now begins running towards Yasuho, and finally Joshu begins attempting to properly redeem himself. He attempts to attack Toru with his Nut King Call, receiving the attack of a calamity before his attacks can connect. Toru silently and disturbingly grows closer to Yasuho, entering touching distance. Josuke rushes to a pool of water as he states how desperately he needs Paisley Park's root to be able to send his soap bubbles through his phone and out of Yasuho's to attack Toru again. Josuke enters the water, keeping the phone as dry as possible. This removes the majority of the Obladi rock insects from his body, and very quickly he tells Yasuho to point the phone at Toru as quickly as she can. The phone points towards Toru, but he manages to grab Yasuho's cheek and begins the equivalent exchange process. Suddenly, the invisible soap bubble explodes from the phone, diving straight into the neck of Toru. The bubble causes extreme damage to Toru's torso, and here we learn the name of this new ability. Soft and Wet Go Beyond. Yeah, it's a bit simple, but who cares? This is an amazing moment that showcases just how strong Josuke has become, being able to transcend the calamity energy and potentially put an end to Toru. The soap bubbles tear holes in Toru's entire body, entering his neck, and as it does, it rotates extremely fast on the inside of his throat, and then exploding very similarly to how Josuke's soap bubbles have in the past when utilizing the exploding bomb portion of Kira's Killer Queen. As Toru flies forwards, he smashes the windshield of one of the Higashikata cars parked in the garage. But as he lays there bleeding out, he begins crawling to the inside of the Higashikata house, only to find Kato stood there in the garage. You can see in the doorway just behind Kato on the inside of the house, blood dripping down the stairs.
Hope this is not Chris's blood.
Jobin's blood. No, we can assume this is Jobin's blood. Kato is in tears, probably due to finding Jobin's presumably dead body inside the house. It appears as if Toru is crawling towards her to potentially use her body for an equivalent exchange instead of Yasuho's. Before I worked on this video, I worked on a video titled, Who is the main villain of JoJolion? Some of the JoJo fanbase still believe it will end up being Jobin or Kato. or that perhaps they're all working together with Toru. In the video I just mentioned, I discussed the reasons why I believe Toru is the main villain, and why Kato and Jobin are not. However, in that video, I theorized that Toru may be crawling towards the inside of the house for the sole purpose of using Jobin's body to heal himself. I'll post a link to that video in the description if you want to get the full theory on that, but for now, I'll just break it down into the short version. I believe that Kato loves her family very much, and that point is reaffirmed in the text on this page. However, she's always edged towards Jobin being her favourite. She once even instructed Jobin to keep climbing and leave others at the bottom. Keep climbing as in to reach the top of the world, and leave others at the bottom as in to be above them and stay that way. I heavily believe that she loves Jobin so very much that she would take advantage of Toru having eaten the Nurokakaka. I think she may bring Jobin's dead body towards Toru and have them fuse, purely to bring Jobin back from the dead. Remember, Kira was originally already dead when Josefumi fed him the Nurokakaka, creating the fuse to Josuke that we know and love. In that aforementioned video, I theorized that due to Toru being a silicone-based lifeform, he may not need to be buried underground for a full fusion to take place, such as with Josefumi and Kira, due to the Earth being heavily silicone-based. However, I was reminded by you guys that it was not just the fact they were buried in the Earth below, it was because that particular area of the Earth has properties of the Saint's corpse. It's still possible though for this fusion to take place. If Toru manages to create an earthquake using his Calamity ability, it's possible he and Jobin could get buried underneath the ground and create a brand new being, mixing Speed King and Wonder of You together to create a new, overpowered as hell being. Either that or Toru will crawl towards Kato and use her body to revive his own, possibly using the aforementioned method and fusing properly into one being. Imagine Kato's pocket dimension stand ability merging with Wonder of You. Just how overpowered would this be? We know JoJolion is in the endgame now, but remember when the endgame of Steel Ball Run started? That series still progressed for another 30 or so chapters. I've seen some people believe JoJolion will end in the next 2 to 3 months, however I really do not believe it will finish until mid to late 2021. This chapter was an amazing showcase of Josuke's new Go Beyond ability, and just how powerful it is, especially when combined with Yasuho's Paisley Park. Toru's abuse of her stand ability over the years is surely coming back to bite him, and I love it. We still do not fully know Toru's true goal, however I theorize about this goal in the Who's the Main Villain of JoJolion video. Again, go check it out if you want that full theory. To be honest, I am happy that Toru is being defeated here, however I believe this defeat is temporary and is an excuse for Araki to finally upgrade our main villain of JoJolion. After all, nearly every JoJo main villain has gotten a massive power boost within the endgame of their part, except for Diavolo, because come on, King Crimson was already pretty damn overpowered. So we can expect an answer to this whole situation in chapter 107, which at this point of upload may already be out, so none of this video may apply. Let's be honest, I've been slacking with writing and editing. As long as it takes to put these videos together, it's usually worth it in the long run. I hope you can forgive me for the very late upload. I'll do my best to get on top of chapter 107 as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Let me know your theories in the comments about what may happen next in JoJolion. Of course, if chapter 107 is already out by now, then feel free to compare my theories and thoughts to the most recent chapter. Let me know if you thought my theories were close, or if they were far off. If you enjoyed this video, then it'd be great if you could leave a thumbs up on it down below and maybe even subscribe to keep up with regular uploads, chapter reviews, and stand analysis videos. Thank you so much for watching, but until next time, Bizarre Star Platinum out.